booktube, welcome back to my channel. Today we're here with kind of a book tag. Well, it's a combination of a couple of tags. Let me explain. First up, I went to the library yesterday and I got only two books yesterday. I don't have enough books to do a library haul, but I wanted to show you those two books and maybe get your input on which book I should read first. So I took those two books along with another book that I got in the mail, which is an ARC that I received. And so holding them up like this, you don't know which one is the ARC. Well, I guess you do. The ARC would definitely be this one. So I have two hardcovers from the library and an ARC that I got. And I'm gonna read all of them because I'm pretty excited about all of them. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read page 112 for you. And you'll tell me which of the books sounds most like something that you think I want to read, or most like the book that you think you want to hear about. So I'm going to read page 112 of these three books, and even though you know one of them is an ARC, you won't know which one I'm reading at the time. And then maybe at the end, maybe I'll tell you which book is which. So here goes. The first book, here's page 112. Well, I should tell you, page 112 tag originated with Sean the Book Maniac, and I'll link his original video down below. He got the idea from a French literary prize where the judges for the prize only read page 112 before they decide whether or not the book is worthy to be included as a candidate for the prize. The idea is that page 112 is far enough away from the beginning of the book, which is heavily edited, and it kind of gives you a better idea of what the writing is for the rest of the book, not just the very heavily edited first paragraph or so, or first few pages, I suppose. So here's page 112 in the first book. It starts in the middle of a sentence. I'll start with the first complete sentence. It says, she's considering a career as a painter. She talks about the last time they were together. She'd taken some quiz in a career counselor's office that showed she was a visual spatial learner. Maria feels now an almost big sisterly pride as she stands on the other side of the glass, watching Lisa hold court. Maria can see Khalil too. His dreadlocks piled in an enormous bun on top of his head, sitting hunched over a plate of Bangladeshi food, eating with his fingers. Gloria used to say to her, "You can't have it all. If you're a black woman in America, you have to choose which thing you will get." For a long time, Maria took everything Gloria said to be God-given fact, but now she thinks Gloria was wrong. The last time she'd gone with Khalil to visit his parents in Seattle, his father, Sam, set up a projector in the living room. After dinner, they all sat down to watch a slideshow of photographs from the Mirsky's travels. Maria sat between Khalil and Lisa on the couch, watching the images move past. She had seen some of their pictures before, and they had always filled her with suspicion. She had never been able to see them without imagining Gloria there too, seated in the corner on an African Sanufo stool, watching them all in uneasy silence. But on that last visit, she'd felt herself relax into the Mirsky's story, to become part of it for the very first time. She laughed at their stories as if they were her stories too. That's page 112, and I guess I'll tell you the novel. It is New People by Danzy Senna. She's the author of Caucasia, which I haven't read, but I saw this one in the Black Heritage section of the bookstore. Well, I saw this in the Black section of the library, and I'm intrigued to read it, so let me know what you think about this one, whether this is the book that you want to hear about next. And the second book, page 112, also begins in the middle of a sentence, so I'll start with the first complete sentence. The man with the Muslim uncle had exchanged his Economist for a laptop whose screensaver was a photograph of himself with someone of identical complexion. They also had the same eyebrows, the same angle to their jawlines, the same brand of windbreaker in which they stood with their arms around each other against a dramatically marbled sky. Behind them, brown mountains stretched into the distance, triangular summits intricately veined at the top with snow. Then an Excel document poured up from the bottom of the screen, replacing nature with a blinding blizzard of cells. Devon Flowers, Elizabeth Hammersley, Kanchan Kemhandani, Cynthia Wolfe, Orlando Olson, Natasha Stowe, Ashley Brownstein, Hannah Filkins, Zachary Jump. Sometimes a name had to be repeated and its owner discovered to have been in the men's room or stretching his legs in the atrium or asleep. Only once did someone fail to materialize at all, and the effect on the room was a kind of jarring collective consternation. Who was this AWOL Amar Jamali, and what reason could he have for standing up the American judiciary? And yet, Alice envied Amar Jamali a little, desperate as she was to be somewhere else herself. Someone else herself. Emmanuel Gatt, Connor Fleming, Pilar Brown, Michael Firestone, Kirill Dobrovolsky, Abigail Cohen, Jennifer Vanderhoeven. That is page 112 of Asymmetry by Lisa Halliday. I don't know what I think about this excerpt. Most of it is just names. These are the names that I was just calling. So they're in a courthouse. It seems waiting maybe to be called. It says, what reason could he have for standing up the American judiciary? Is this someone going for jury duty? Asymmetry. I got this from the library because it's a finalist. Well, it's an Octo finalist for the BookTube Prize, and I'm going to be a judge in a future round, and I want to read as many of the books that have been nominated as possible. And a lot of people have talked about this book, but I gotta say, from page 112, I'm not so sold yet. I should tell you what I thought about the Danzy Senna book. The mention of all those people on that page was a little bit strange. Not knowing who those characters are and why it is that the narrator is talking about Gloria and her influence being different from the influence of Khalil and Lisa and Maria. I don't know, Khalil has dreadlocks. I want to read this just because I know that it has to do with contemporary African American lifestyle, but I don't know, neither of those two excerpts really sold me yet. So here we go with our arc, page 112, and this is a big book. This book is over 500 pages, which is huge for an arc for an author that I've never read from before, but it's fine. Page 112. Okay, here we go. Also starts in the middle of a sentence. I'm going to read this one just because this part of the sentence is pretty long, and it starts with his wife standing in the driveway below and watching him with admiration. "Your butt looks really cute from this angle," she'd call up to him if the kids weren't around. He continued his ascent, the pruning shears tucked beneath his arm. When he reached the sturdiest looking low branch, he straddled it as though on horseback and paused for a minute, observing the backyard from 15 feet up. The dog paced restlessly across the ground beneath him. He held a leaf in his palm, half a dull green, the other half whitish, both sides mottled with tiny black dots. A woodpecker sounded from a neighboring oak. He massaged his shoulder, which was rebelling against his recent foray into elevated landscaping. He leaned his back against the trunk and sighed. He found the notion of mindfulness irritating. Work made life make sense. It gave it shape and order. And then suddenly you were 64 years old, a doctor of medicine, climbing trees like a boy, obsessed with slugs and peculiar strains of mold. It didn't seem fair, this abrupt reversal of his station in life. There should be some sort of middle ground between gainful employment and diagnoseyourdecidua.com. He'd sent the webmaster an email. The gratuitous MD punctuating his signature made him feel a spark of pride, pointing out the egregious linguistic error that deciduo had, in fact, nothing to do with deciduous, that it in fact referred to the uterine lining expelled with the placenta after human delivery. He'd been proud of the email, which contained a patient explanation of the Latin root decidere, translatable either to cut off or to fall off, the latter of which could be applicable if used loosely to describe both the shedding of leaves on trees and the shedding of the endometrium formed during pregnancy. Actually, he'd been proud of the email at the time, but within 20 minutes the pride had turned to shame. Shame for the fact that last year he'd been delivering uterine linings, but now he was schooling an anonymous dime store dendrologist on Latin root words. Mindfulness was BS. The trim on the house needed painting, but Marilyn was adamant that he not do it himself. Perhaps he would remind her that he was a grown man, a once respected man. Do you want me to continue? This is a pretty long sentence and it continues on the next page. So I'm going to read it. Perhaps he would remind her that he was a grown man, a once respected man, a man whose cat-like reflexes she had previously praised, in bed albeit, but nobody could argue with the fact that he was fairly coordinated. I realize this is a cliche, he would say to her, but it feels like the world has left me behind. The reason I didn't want to stop on that sentence is because I didn't want to stop. I like this. I like the existential musing that this author is having. I like that this is a female writing from a male's perspective, a 64-year-old professional man who is going through some kind of a midlife crisis. I liked reading that. I like that. If I had to choose right now which one to pick up based on these three, page 112, I'd probably go for this one. But I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below whether you think I should read book 1 or book 2. Let's do them like this. Or book 3. Book 3. Vote book 3. Let me know in the comments down below. Let me know which of these 3 books you'd most like to hear about. And maybe that will be the book that I pick up first. I'm going to have to restrain myself. I'm trying to read more of the books that I pick up from the library before they need to be returned to the library, and then I end up having to return them unread. But I'd like to hear your comments. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll leave the link down below to Sean's original video, as well as previous page 112 tag videos that I've filmed. They're in a playlist down below. So let's talk in the comments, and until next time, happy reading.